to go undefeated throughout the season and right up until the championship. And that was because Bobby Knight and Indiana Hoosiers. Meanwhile, USC has won and covered in every NCAA tournament game. They won and they covered as well. They beat 11th seed Drake 72-56. Kansas, that was a third seed. They beat them easily, handily, 85-51. And then the seventh seed Oregon team, they beat 82-68. But now they're up against Gonzaga. They've also won, and they've covered every game so far in the tournament, and they beat Norfolk State. That was a 16 seed, 98-55. They beat Oklahoma and the number 8 seed, 87-71. And they beat the number 5 seed Creighton, 83-65. Now, that's everything that's happened up until now. Let's take a look at the line. We see now that Gonzaga opened as a 9-point favorite. The public, as usual, once again, going to bet and laid the points with Gonzaga. And why not? I mean, they've got a great story to tell, undefeated so far, and the general public, as usual, goes for the big name team. They go for the team with the better record. So it's not unusual that most of the tickets coming in are coming in on Gonzaga. But despite all of the support that Gonzaga is getting, we've seen the line stay frozen, sort of around 9. It dropped a little to 8.5 at some of the shops as well. So what this means, because of this little movement, it's called the sharp liability and the reverse line movement on the Trojans. The pros are grabbing the points. They're not laying them. They are putting their money on USC. Now, Ken Palm, we've talked about who he is, one of the gurus as far as ratings go of college teams. He has Gonzaga winning by 7 points, which gives you actionable value on USC at this current number, which means if you can get 8.5 to 9 points, he thinks they're only going to win by 7. That's sort of in your advantage to go in that direction. Now, we've also seen the pro money go for the under in this game, drop the total from 155 down to 153. Now, so far during March Madness, the unders are at 59%. When the total is 140 or higher, Madness unders are at 64% this season in the tournament. 64%. So that's the story there. The pros are on the Trojans, and of course, they're also in on the under for this particular game. So we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at UCLA against Michigan, the late game tonight as well. So we're going to take a look at it, see how the line movement has been going in that particular situation, and also let you know in which direction the pros are laying their money. So we'll be back into the sports wagering zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live on the I-95 Sports Entertainment Network, or we're also on some podcast programs just as well. Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, most of the major platforms carry the sports wagering zone. So thank you very much for listening. Like I said before, we totally, really appreciate you listening to the show. We like that you're telling your friends about it. Our numbers have been getting better and better every day. But once again, if you have any problems with the show, okay, we've been doing the show for almost 5 years. So we've been kind of in this bubble, thinking everything is going fine. Every now and then we get an email to make some sort of a little adjustment. Maybe we talk too much about a certain subject, maybe not enough about another subject. So if you have any comments, good or bad, okay, let us know. That's what we're here for. We want to make this as pleasant and as informative. That's important. We want to make it to be informative for you. We want to make a better handicapper out of you. Whether you've got a system right now that you're happy with, or you're unhappy with the system you're using, or you're brand new into sports betting and you're looking for something to do, that's what we're here for. Strictly talking numbers, strictly talking analytics. Like I said before, we want to take the emotion out of betting. Use emotion, you're going to get yourself caught somewhere down the line. No doubt about it. Numbers don't lie. That's for sure. Anyway, let's take a look now at the final game tonight. UCLA against Michigan. We already talked about the early game, USC against Gonzaga. The pros are on USC, the Trojans, and they're also on the under as well. Meanwhile, close to 10 o'clock, UCLA against Michigan. The Eastern Regional matchup. You got number 11 seed UCLA, 21-9 for the season, up against the number 1 seed in the East, Michigan, 23-4 this season. Now, UCLA is the only team to be 4-0 so far in the NCAA tournament, because they beat 11th seed Michigan State 86-60 because they had to get into the play-in round. They played in the first 4 games. Now, when taking down 6th seed BYU 73-62, and then they took down 14 seed Abilene Christian 67-47, and then the big upset over Alabama, the number 2 seed, 88-78. Now, on the other side of the coin, meanwhile, Michigan, they've crushed number 16 seed Texas Southern 82-66. They beat LSU, the number 8 seed, 86-78. And they beat Florida State, the number 4 seed, 76-58. Now, this line opened, and you had Michigan a 7.5 point favorite. The pros have gotten down big on UCLA, dropping the line from 7.5 to 6.5. Now, understand something. Dogs during this tournament in which the line stays the same or moves in their favor are at 61%. This is a movement from 7.5 to 6.5, and that's in the favor of UCLA. Okay. Now, Ken Palm has Michigan winning by 5 points, which also gives you some more actionable value on UCLA. Why taking the points? Once again, he thinks Michigan will win by 5. So if you're sitting there with 6.5 or 7 or even 6, and that's the way it turns out, you're a winner. Now, the pro money has also come in on the under in this game as usual, dropping the total from 137 to 135.5. Now, the unders in which the line stays the same, or if it drops a little like it did here, it's at 61% winners this tournament so far. So at UCLA at Michigan, pros are on the dog in this game. they're usually on the dog in the USC Gonzaga game, and that's really no surprise. Most of the times, you're going to find that the professional bettors are contrarian bettors. By that, we mean they bet against the public and they bet with the house. That's the way you look at it. They're betting with the house. Anytime you bet against the favorite, when you're betting on the underdog, you're betting with the house. Now, of course, there's that old expression, the house never loses. It does occasionally, but not as often as the others. So, once again, repeating the two games for tonight. The 7 o'clock game, you got USC against Gonzaga. The pros are on USC, the Trojans, and on the under. In the UCLA-Michigan game, the pros once again are on the underdog, UCLA, and in the under as well. So those are the two games on tap for tonight. And like I said, generally speaking, the pros are usually in that 60% bracket. So that's one thing to kind of look at. Now, yesterday they were 2-0. We had two plays yesterday. Both plays came in. So now you can look at it from any one of two windows, two angles. You can say, well, hey, they won two yesterday. What are the chances of them winning two tonight? Well, you can't think that way, but you could look at it from that perspective. Or you could say, hey, they won two yesterday. They're hot. I'm going to stay with them. I'm going to see if I can work them into the system that I'm using right now. So again, we leave that up to you. We give you the information. You take it from there. We keep a record of it. We'll let you know exactly what's going on game after game to let you know what is happening so that you can make a very educated decision, as we say. So let's take our third break, our final break of the day. When we come back, let's take a close look at these pros. What do they do? What is it that makes them winners? Why do they win? Well, first of all, they have to do it for a living. That's how they make their money. So let's take a look at it. We'll let you know what it's like, and then you'll see why we kind of run on their coattails whenever we can to try to win the money that we can. So let's take that break, and we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back. Here we go again. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live on the I-95 Sports Network and also podcasting on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, you name it. We're on most of the major podcast platforms. So one of the big questions I always get when I'm out talking to friends, I'm just talking to strangers or whomever, I give little lectures here and there. People always come up to me and say, what's the difference between the professional and the regular bettor? What is it? What are they doing? What is it? And what do they look at in order to be able to make a living wage, okay, in this particular business, which is very, very difficult to do? Now, the difference is big, especially if you're looking at the profit and loss over a long time. Okay, if you're looking at a 5, 6, 7, 10-year period, There's a big difference between the two. But, on any given day, like today or yesterday, there really isn't that much of a difference. There's a real misperception that the pros have this great inside information. It kind of lets them load up on virtual locks, okay? That's not how it works. Believe me, they bet bigger because they have bigger bankrolls. They have more money to put in. Okay. So when you say, well, 52.3% is the break even point. Well, if they're doing 55%, yeah, you may be betting, say, $50 a game. They're betting $5,000. They're betting $10,000 because that's how they make their money. Okay. They bet bigger because they have bigger bankrolls. But one thing is for sure, the pros are still grinding it out with very small differences on a day-to-day basis. Now, because of that standard 11-10 VIG on Sportsbook, so in other words, if you risk $11 to win 10, you risk 110 to win 100, or anything else in that kind of ratio, for instance, the break-even point's 52.4%. Now, if you're new to sports betting, you might be surprised to know that the pros win only about 55 to 56% of their opinions over the long period of time, over a long stretch, okay? It's easy to visualize it kind of in this way. Recreational bettors, you guys are basically coin flippers. You'll hit 50% of your picks. It's real easy to do. You're going to get 50%, and that's usually not much of a problem. But that's a losing record because of that VIG we talked about. Now, the pros, they're going to achieve something more like a 6-5. In other words, out of every 11 picks, they'll have 6 winners and 5 losers. That's 54.5%. Or they might be 23-20 over a few days, which is 53.4%, for instance. Now, that's a big difference in a very small sample size. But if you multiply that by months and years, the pros grind out a nice living while the average bettor digs himself a hole they can't climb out of, and it's a sports betting math in a nutshell. The math is there. The math doesn't lie. What really hurts the average bettor is the urge to parlay the opinions that you have. That's what drops your bet record below 50-50. Parlays, they do offer large payouts. There's no doubt about it. But you have to win all of them. All the teams have to win in order for you to win the bet. So it's hard enough to take one winner and try to win it. It's hard to turn 5 out of 5 different games that you're looking at or individual game picks into parlays that will have to sweep the whole situation. So some of the things you need to learn if you're starting to bet in the real world of betting is the math. Don't discredit the opinion of the pros because you see them when they lose an individual bet. Like yesterday, the day before yesterday, they had 2 plays. Both plays lost. Yesterday, they had 2 plays. Both plays won. Now, it may look like the pros are wrong a lot of the time, but the pros are going to lose about 46 to 47% of every 100 bets anyway over that long period of time. Now, a lot of inexperienced bettors, the new bettors, and a lot of the guys in the media, they apply their own delusions of grandeur to what the pros really do. The top poker players don't even win every hand. Just think of it that way. The pros don't win every game. Whenever you hear about a really big bet, that's a topic that's become very popular, especially in the media, because they like to get onto those kind of stories. And of course, it's the various casinos and the sports books that make sure that the media gets to cover these stories. It's usually from some rich guy who is just an average bettor or a fan. He's not a pro. The publicity that these stories have are easy to find, like I said, because the sports books, they want these rich people to keep placing these big bets. Now, you're going to find that a lot of these super big bets are placed at really inflated point spreads or even big money lines. Sportsbooks only take money and monster money, the big money, when the math is on their side. They're not stupid. Sharps grind within the parameters of the sound bankroll management that they use on a day-to-day basis. So the difference between you being a winner or a loser is actually pretty small on a day-to-day basis. Stop chasing those parlays. Don't bet uninformed leans in these TV games just because you want to have something to bet, to watch, to sweat about. Don't place a big bet on your strongest opinions until you have a track record that justifies that level of confidence. And even then, you should still be betting responsibly. Remember, respect the realities of sports betting math. This way, you can bet smart. That's for sure. So follow them. That's what we do. You just can't come in and say, well, they won 2 games yesterday. They must be great. Or they lost 2 games the day before. Or 2 days before that, 3 days. They had 4 plays. They had 1 winner and three losers. You can't take it on a day-by-day basis. You have to look at it over the long haul. They were 1-3 and 1-3, so now they're 2-6. Then they were 0-2, so now they're 2-8. Now they won 2, they're 4-8. You see, and then it starts catching up with each other. At the end of the trail, after a while, what you're going to see is going to be over 52.3, 52.4%. Many of them come close to even 58, 59% as far as their winning totals are concerned. But that's all they're looking for. They're looking for that slight edge, but they're putting in some big bucks. And that's the big difference between the average bettor and the professional bettor. So that's the story. Now, looking again at the games on tap for tonight, the 2 big elite games on tap, USC and Gonzaga, UCLA and Michigan. I'm looking at the board here at Las Vegas, and just a reminder, anytime we talk about numbers and lines, we're talking about Las Vegas. You have to check with your local sports books as to what your line is compared to these. They're usually not that far off because it's generally that's the way it is. USC and Gonzaga in this first game, the pros are on USC. Gonzaga is an 8.5 to a 9-point favorite. Some of the houses are at 9, some of them are at 8.5. USC, and the under is the choice. The under now is at 153 to 153.5. Most of the houses are on 153. Started at 155. UCLA at Michigan, the late game. Michigan is favored by 7 points in most situations, 6.5 in some situations. Actually, right now, it's about 50-50. You have to check with your local sports book as to what they're doing, because it's going to be different. You may have a slightly different line in Michigan than you will in California, for instance, or Nevada, or Arizona, one of the western states. So you kind of have to take a look at it. There might be a difference, maybe a half, maybe a point. The over-under in this game is at 136, 135.5 at most of the houses. It started at 140.5. It's been dropping steadily all few days. So that's the story there. And in that game, the pros, once again, they're on the underdog, the UCLA team, and those are the 2 picks that they have on tap for tonight. So that's the story for today. I want to thank you once again for listening. We've been coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and also on most of your podcasts situations such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're all over on the major primary podcast platforms. So once again, thanks for listening. If you're going to be watching those games tonight, if you're betting on them, I wish you the best of luck. I always do. I definitely want you to be a winner. We're here to try to help you become a winner in that respect. Okay, and if you're not betting, you like to watch some college basketball. By all means, there are going to be two really great games to watch tonight. You'll see what happens, because right from there, we go into the big numbers and we'll see what happens then. So until tomorrow, once again, 4 o'clock, we're here every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So until tomorrow, I'm Chris Pardo. Thanks again for listening. Have a very, very pleasant Tuesday. And more importantly than that, have a profitable Tuesday as well. Goodbye, everybody.